I worked on a new portfolio piece of the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, and I kind of mentioned it in my previous video, but my intention was I started this project about a year ago when I was pregnant with Noah, and during that time I was feeling these kind of crazy, conflicting, dark emotions, and I wanted to channel that into something, something positive. I also was feeling like I needed to work on a new project. So, found this cool concept, and I'll walk you through how I created it. This is the Mad Hatter concept, 2D concept by an artist called Teemu Juhani. I believe he's a Finnish uh, illustrator. So what I loved about this concept is how strong the shape language is. There are big shapes, heavy shapes on top. It kind of tapers into really thin areas. Just the contrast or the juxtaposition of all the shapes is really, really appealing to me. Um, I love the wispiness of the hair, how it tapers into this really these thin lines from this big bulk area. I love, same reason, huge hands tapered into these really tiny, creepy wrists. Another part I liked in terms of me demonstrating some skills that I haven't demonstrated in my portfolio is an interpretation of this area. So this is a little bit, since there are so many wrinkles and eye bags and cheekbones and this skeletal look, you have the freedom to go quite realistic or anatomically correct with this, should you want to. And I haven't done I haven't done a piece that is so detailed before, so hence another reason why this was appealing to me. Let me show you the end product. Actually, so some difficult areas that I foresaw when looking at this piece was, I don't, how does this part of the hat stay so upright while the slant of the hat is kind of almost vertical? I don't, should this hat be correct, it should be sitting more in the middle of his head rather than off to the side. But maybe it's tilted, like the hat is like tilted to the side. However, if it's tilted to the side, that means that this top part would also be tilted, but actually it's going straight up. So that was an interesting problem to think about. Another part is, how would I translate the hair, since it's so wispy, there are different lines. What parts should I model differently? Like, it's a bulk of hair, but at the same time really thin. So how would I just translate this bulkiness also with these intricate lines? When we're looking at the face, he is partially drawn dead on. Maybe it's just his eyes are turned, but the symmetry of his mouth and the alignment of his teeth almost makes it look like he's centered. So like parts of his face are more dead on to the camera than his like nose or his mouth area, or his chin. So the chin, the lips, and I would say the face are turned this way, but then his eyes and his teeth are almost centered. So how would I reconcile this like side turned side eye, but not really side eye look? Okay, and then over here on his hands, it looks like he has only 4 fingers. With talking about the hands, how exactly are you holding it? So when we're looking at the teacup, it almost seems like it's an upward angle. However, it's at the eye level of the viewer too. So the teacup, if this is a teacup, it's not dead on like this. It's almost like upward and tilted like this. But yet it's still at the eye level of the camera. So how can we be looking up at the teacup yet also dead on at the teacup? With the hands too, okay, it does look like one hand is holding the majority of the teacup. Like the teacup base is really small. So what is the other hand actually doing? Is the palm even touching the base? It might not actually be touching the base, since the base looks like it is covered by these 3 fingers, like in terms of support. So what is this hand doing? Is it supporting the top or the side of the cup like this? Like imagine this is a cup. But then wouldn't these fingers over here be poking above the edge of the cup line? But they're not. So are they more squinched down and off to the side, or wrapped around? And how do these other pinky, like how does his pinky look on the other side too? So is he clawing the little teacup like this? But in fact, but the delicacy of how he's holding it in this concept is quite small and delicate. So how do we capture that? Another part that was difficult is there are lots of lines around the concept, whether that's the little threads that are poking out here or the threads of his shirt and these lines here. How to capture that in 3D? Like what are these lines? Are they wrinkles? Are they threads? How do we interpret this? So overall, lots of difficult pieces. However, for my brain, for some reason, I was able to kind of see the shapes. Of course, once I got into the sculpt, it was a lot harder. But let me show you the end result. Okay, the end result. So here's my portfolio, Soong, S-O-O-N-G, stephanie.artstation.com. And then you click on this Mad Hatter. So I clicked it over here. And so this was the sculpt. It's a little glitchy because, okay, well, that's not so successful, I would say. I'll show you the sculpt later. This is the end texture, which of course is not, well, there, it's kind of working. It's kind of working. Not the smoothest transition, but let's see if we can. Oh, the music is on time. But the video is not. Of course it isn't. Here is the final image of what I created. So you can go ahead and check out my Mad Hatter in real time since the video isn't working. But yeah, here's the Mad Hatter. And this was the original concept. Today I will not talk about the texturing phase of how I did this Mad Hatter, but instead talk about the sculpt and how I address certain problematic areas. And this is the ZBrush sculpt. So, oh no. Well, I don't know if I'll be able to move this. Let's see. Oh, wow, I can move it. So here is a little 360 of it since my video wasn't working. Ignore the bottom, it's a little funky monkey, but here's the general gist of it. And then we'll go in and zoom in and talk about the problem areas. Whee! Okay, so as mentioned from the beginning, the top, the hat, oh, whoa. Okay. So with the hat, how I figured how to figure out that problem was, as you can tell from the side, it looks kind of funny. That's not really how a top hat works, but I know that in the rendering process, I am probably not going to show this angle of the hat. I'll probably cut it off right here to make it look, to cheat the camera and make it look like it's a functioning hat and not just like a broken hat. Okay? Also, this is the hat scarf, which it should be. Anyways. Okay, so that's how I did the hat. I also was given feedback to do a little hole for the hat so the hat can fit in the head like a real hat. Okay. And then in terms of the hair, do you guys remember that I had I didn't know how to interpret the bulkiness and also the lines. So what I did was just took the lines, each line seriously, and made a chunk of volume to do each hair strand. So here's a little bit more of the chunkiness from the side, but over here it's each thread of hair is its own geometry. And I made sure to taper it really, really tiny just to show that juxtaposition of the bulkiness over here to the really, really fine lines. And I made sure that the silhouette of the hair aligned exactly with the concept. So what's cool about ZBrush is that there's a see-through option up here on the top right corner where, whoa, I could put the concept behind here, but right now it's another, so ignore my piece, but I can put the concept behind ZBrush and I could line up the hairlines with the concept hairlines, should I want to. Okay, oh, and then this is, okay, in terms of the face and how I was talking about how things were dead on and not dead on, as you can tell, the middle of the teeth is actually not correct, but from the angle that I needed to mimic of it, the teeth being more dead on, I cheated it this way. So from the center of the mouth is actually over here, but the center of the lips is over here. So just a little bit off, but then the face actually makes sense otherwise, aside from the skewed teeth. Like the nose is straight up in the middle, the eyebrows are where they are supposed to be, and then the eyes are the same, or are the same location as where they anatomically should be. So it's just the teeth that are a little wonky, but you know, the cool part is that this cup blocks the teeth when I go in the 360, do a 360 turnaround for the rendering. It's all about cheating the camera. It doesn't need to be actually functioning correct, especially in a sculpt that's a sculpt in a pose. But for normal animation and game ready assets, you probably need to make things a little more correct and appealing from all 360 degrees. Okay, so for the hands, the little tiny wrists, the hands were probably the hardest part for me in this, as we talked about. The angle of the cup is slightly tilted upwards. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, it's tilted, so from the side, this side is actually longer than this other side because I needed to do that upwards angle. That's how I cheated that. And then in terms of the hands, fingers, he only has 4 fingers, similar to the concept, and I had to make it look kind of still good, so people won't notice that he only has 4 fingers. And then over here too. So this is how I did the hand. And I said, okay, well, the concept doesn't show the fingernails sticking out from the top, but realistically, if he is to hold a cup, he needs to grasp the cup in a certain way that is secure for the cup, but also not have his palm touch the base of this cup, since the base is covered by this palm over here. Well, fingers more like, yeah. So from the side, you can't really see the fingernails popping up, but if you tilt it a little bit, there it is. So I was able to hide the fingernails with bringing up this cup line edge side a little bit higher than this on this side over here. Another thing is that the fingers are all separate tools. So look at this. This is one, the palm is one thing, and then there's a separate finger, and then this finger is also attached to the palm too. So this is actually not attached. And then I needed to show the knuckles as progressively smaller, but from this side it doesn't anatomically really make sense because this finger looks way bigger than this finger, just based on the knuckle size. Okay. Another part. There were lines everywhere, as you can see. I added how I addressed the lines all over the sculpt, or sorry, the 2D concept art is I have different geometry for each line. So if you look closely, each line is its own separate subtool, but then I combined it all together. But yeah, how I, no, never mind. But yeah, you can see that these are all separate little pieces. And that's just to capture the draftiness of the pencil used in the 2D concept. And then to address the other lines, I sculpted lines going into the mesh rather than like over here in the hat where it's a separate subtool lying on top of the mesh. I sculpted it into the mesh over here. And then in terms of the wrinkle, I interpreted the lines on the shirt to be wrinkles that are folding up along the coat. So like over here on the shoulders too, I kind of sculpted into it. Yeah. In terms of the face, the realism of the wrinkles and eye bags, I spent some time detailing out some of these lines and adding some volume. Like, okay, how do eye bags work and what do they sort of look like? Also, how do I capture that skeletal feel of the cheekbones but still making sure that it's appealing? So it's kind of like a shadow of a cheekbone and not a real bone penetrating out of the skin. And then I added some of these lines to show where the lip edge might be, but not showing the full lip edge of drawing an entire full line. Yeah, and then some details, let's say, of the nose. As you can see, there's a really subtle, gosh, it's jumping. It's jumping on me. You can see it's a really subtle plane to I don't know, just make this mushy area a little bit more pristine and precise and seem intentional. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just showing you a little 360 of the eye bag sculpt look. Changed. Some lines are more deep cut and prominent than others that are more tapered or faded out, and that was the intention of mimicking the strong lines drawn on the concept versus the lighter, brushier areas. Because my goal is to show the hand of the artist despite it all being done in 3D. Yup. Okay, that's that.